I guess, to give people a quick rundown if they don't know the full scope of what a summit is, like obviously we're on here on one right now, but typically it is a free event where you get, one of my mentors early in the days, Navid Moazes, who I learned summits from, he said, a summit is like a podcast on steroids. And for me, that something just resonated. It's like, okay, I could do a podcast, but they're it's super saturated right now. There's a lot of things, a lot of noise out there on the internet. Summits are still to this day breaking through that noise. So for me, it's a great way to connect with people who you've been following for years. It's a great way to provide value to the audience in a very specific niche or product or whatever your summit is about. And then it's also a great way for you to build your audience as the host, to build your audience and create a product at the same time. So it's really a win-win-win for everybody.
Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Create Your Life. I am your host, Simone Leah. So I just wanted to let you guys know that today's interview is actually an interview that I recorded about a year ago when I ran an online event called the Soul-Led Entrepreneurs Summit. It was a really, really, really wonderful event. I had some beautiful, amazing speakers talking about things like connecting with your intuition and how you can use that in your business, how to do Facebook advertising, how to do marketing as a soul-led entrepreneur, all of these cool things to do with business, entrepreneurship, and actually also spirituality and connecting within. And so these interviews were so wonderful that I really wanted to be able to share them with you now. So if when you're watching this, you see or hear the word Soul-Led Entrepreneurs, this is still the Create Your Life show, but these interviews were just too good for me to keep to myself any longer. So I really, really, really hope you guys enjoy this interview, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon. Hey guys, and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. My name is Simone and I am your host. Today was an amazing interview, and it was amazing because we were interviewing one of my real life mentors, Mitch Asser. So Mitch is someone who I started working with about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not even sure, honestly. And I started working with him doing his video editing. And before this, I was already working for myself in other ways. I had a book publishing company and all of that sort of stuff. But I knew that the way forward was going to be through things like video and audio. So I actually started working with Mitch doing his video editing, and he was that person for me who was that real person living the life that I wanted to live. He was the real person being an online entrepreneur. So I just literally loved that time, loved working with him, loved learning from him, loved being around him in terms of just being able to see that real people, real everyday people can live this online life. So today's interview was with Mitch, who basically is my real life mentor. So I absolutely think you guys are going to love this interview. Mitch has put together more than 25 to 30 online summits and online events. And to me, I can't think of anybody else who's got anywhere near the diverse range of skills when it comes to that. So he's done summits for other people and for his own brands on all different topics. He's put summits together from scratch from the start for himself. So he knows all aspects of summits. He loves doing Facebook advertising and marketing. So he knows all about how to actually get that summit out there. So Mitch is an amazing, amazing person. And I hope you guys really love and enjoy this interview as much. Hey guys, and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. My name is Simone, and today I'm here with Mitch Asser from Pet Summits. How are you today, Mitch?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here because for me, you are literally the go-to person on online events, and you've been a mentor of mine for years. So I'm super pumped that people get to hear your awesomeness about your topic of online events, because you are just so knowledgeable on all areas of that. So I'm absolutely pumped to get into this, but I do want to start with the question of, what does being soul aligned in business mean to you?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I'm still sort of thinking what that means. I guess, we're at a different time right now in in our lives, in the evolution of humanity and consciousness. And I think the times of just making money is gone. Now it needs to be aligned to who you are, what you want to achieve. It's got to be good for yourself, good for the planet, good for the people that you're creating value for, which is what a business is for, right? Is to provide value and sell that value. So yeah, I guess maybe if I put it in one word, it means alignment.
Yeah. I love that. It's total alignment. I love it. I totally agree. So online events and online summits, why are they so amazing?
Well, where to start? I guess, to give people a quick rundown if they don't know the full scope of what a summit is. Like, obviously we're on here on one right now, but typically it is a free event where you get, one of my mentors early in the days, Navid Muazzez, who I learned summits from, he said, the summit is like a podcast on steroids. And for me, that something just resonated. It's like, okay, I could do a podcast, but they're it's super saturated right now. There's a lot of things, a lot of noise out there on the internet. Summits are still to this day breaking through that noise. So for me, it's a great way to connect with people who you've been following for years. It's a great way to provide value to the audience in a very specific niche or product or whatever your summit is about. And then it's also a great way for you to build your audience as the host, to build your audience and create a product at the same time. So it's really a win-win-win for everybody. Depending on how experienced you are with summits, there's also a great opportunity to then bring on sponsors and give your speakers opportunities to generate leads and things like that as well, which, I mean, maybe we could dive into if you want to know the specifics around then. But yeah, for me, I've built and run traffic through many different funnels, from webinars to ebooks to all sorts of different things. And I've never found a better marketing strategy as like a lead generating, audience building campaign than an online summit. So for me, it just ticks so many of the boxes, and that's why I've done so many now. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I try and get away from them and think that I'm ready to do something else, but we always come back to summits because it's just a great way to continue to grow your audience, provide value, become a leader in the market, and eventually you do build a big enough business from it if you stick with it.
Yeah, I literally love that, and I would love to ask, can you host a summit on anything?
I've not really come across a subject that you can't. Just to give you some of the crazy ones that I've heard of and or worked on. I worked on one summit once for swingers. So that was pretty interesting. So there's a crazy topic. I've heard of a really successful summit for harp playing. So teaching people how to play the harp. Some of my biggest client or longest clients over the years have been for homeschool, world language teaching. There's so many different options out there. And, if you've got a product or a service that is around education, then there's a good chance that a summit is very suitable for you. And I think that probably answers the question. I'm yet to see one that I couldn't do a summit for a topic.
I literally love that. So here you go, guys. Whatever your niche is, it'll totally work for a summit, which is amazing and so true. So if someone was thinking, I'm going to start a summit and I'm going to do this, how do they even start? Where does it even come from in your brain? How does the process work?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do my best to sort of put this into a few steps that are easy to follow. But I do want to preface that with saying that to do a summit really well, it's a huge amount of work. So give yourself time. There's a lot of people out there, and I was one of them, who, when they decide they want to do a summit, usually us entrepreneurs, we really love to bite off more than we can chew. So give yourself time to do a summit really well. You probably need at least 3 months. Right now for our company, we do a brand new summit every 4 to 5 weeks. and we're planning 4 to 6 months in advance at this point, and still, you know, a lot of work to be done in that final month as well. So give yourself enough time. Follow people who have been there, done that experience. There's a lot of great companies out there now who have done dozens, if not hundreds of summits. Like, you know, I cut my teeth in the natural health space, right? And that's the industry that really pioneered summits from very, very early in the days. Health Means, they're one of the biggest players in there. That's all they do. They originally started as health talks online, where they were producing online summits for everybody else. So really go through and study those types of people who are doing it well. Health Talks actually bought my first company, like all the content from that. So if you are looking through there, you might see some of that, which would be pretty cool. So when it comes to producing something, that's the first place I start, is what are other people doing? And then how can I make it better to suit what I'm doing? So you sort of have this parallel path of, okay, I need to plan and create the strategy around the summit, but then I also need to align that with what's working today, because what's working today might not be the same as what people have been teaching for years and years and years. So you've got to align those couple of things. So get out there, do research, see what's been done in your industry to date, see if you can find old events, and then figure out how you're going to do yours. So that planning stage, that step number one, is probably going to take maybe a few weeks in some cases, depending on how much time you can put into it. So yeah, there's not really too much time that you can put into planning. Like, I love that saying, and I'll probably say it wrong, but it's something like, you know, if you want to chop down a forest or chop down a tree, spend 2 hours sharpening the axe, and you'll be able to cut it down in 10 minutes type thing. So it's that planning stage, it's that preparing, because when you have a really solid strategy, you can execute on that much faster, because you know what the next steps are going to be, you know what needs to get done at what time, and all that type of stuff. So that would be number one, is figure out what's going on, what your plan is, what your strategy is, how you're going to execute that. And then step number two is finding the speakers that align with your message. One of the things that makes or breaks a summit is the quality of speakers who are on your summit. So it's both quality and also their reach, and also the topics that you plan. So if you can get hyper focused on a certain summit category, then you could actually then you need to figure out what are the topics that need to be presented within that summit in order to create a really great product and a really great message for the entire summit itself. And when the messaging is on point and when the topics are right, then that's going to entice people to want to buy the offer from you as well, if you are selling an offer during a summit. So it's beneficial for yourself to actually be planning this stage really well. The thing with the speakers is that there's two types of speakers. One of them is someone who has really great industry knowledge. They've been in there, they've got that been there, done that experience. They're an expert at their craft. They know their information inside out, and they'll blow people's minds when they're talking about whatever their topic is. So you definitely want those types of people on your summit. The second group of people is people with large audiences, you know, the very well-known faces, the ones that you see around social media all the time or in the media outlets. Sometimes you'll be surprised that both of those things don't always go together, which is quite interesting. But you definitely need to have those two types of things covered when you're creating the content for the summit. So it's really important to think about that carefully, execute on that. By having those really well-known speakers, you're going to attract people into the summit. Even if they don't agree to promote the summit, it's just really great having their face up there next to yours. You're borrowing that credibility, right? You know, if you think of Oprah, like think about Oprah, she's not an expert at anything. She started as a humble news reporter. However, because of the power of association, where she's interviewed all of the biggest celebrities, politicians, athletes, the most well-known people in the world. She's now undoubtedly become one of the most influential women of all time. She's probably more successful than 99.9% of the people who she's interviewed over the years on her actual platform. So just that power of association and becoming the curator of all of these experts immediately boosts your credibility, which sort of gets me into one of the benefits, which is by association, you're going to build your credibility and your authority as well. So yeah, that's a really great thing that comes from doing these summits, is you're supercharging that to get to a really high place quickly. So yeah, really focusing on the quality of content and the speakers. That's step number 2. And then number 3, which we could talk about forever, but it's sort of as entrepreneurs, the stuff that we have to do, but we don't want to get bogged down in, which is all the technical work, which is pulling it all together. So, there's a million different choices of how you can host a summit, where you're going to put it, all of that type of stuff. My advice would probably be to, if you know a platform already, then probably stick with that. Pretty much any platform now could do an online summit, and you just sort of need to figure it out as you go. If you don't have a platform, or if you're not technically savvy, if you've got plenty of money to spend, then definitely outsource that part. Or if you don't have either of those, then probably buy a course that you can actually get templates and suggestions of what's been proven to work and things like that. So rather than me explaining all the technical stuff, then yeah, just source that out from your networks. And if you want to ask me, send me an email. I'm happy to answer that, or a Facebook message, and I can answer that for you. But yeah, the technical part, ideally you want to get rid of, but just be prepared that there's a lot involved. I remember my very first summit, if I can share the story, it was right at the time where I was starting to learn how to design websites and build funnels and edit videos and put technical stuff together. Like, I remember it took me hours just figuring out how to download a plugin for WordPress that would then capture all of your members' details as they were purchasing, and then put them into a members area. It took me hours to get my head around that the first time I was learning. Now I can do that in like literally 10 minutes. So if it's the first time, it's going to take you a long time to learn all of that stuff if you're doing it yourself. For me, it took something like 200 and something hours, the very first summit that I did. And for that same amount of work now, we probably do it in less than 50 hours or 40 hours. So just be prepared that there's going to be a bit of time involved if you're learning all that stuff, and plan accordingly. Does that sort of answer it?
Yes, I literally love that. And obviously, like, just to continue on with what you're saying, there is a lot of people, they may not potentially realize how much is involved, because obviously there's reaching out to the speakers, there's interviewing the speakers, but then there's editing the content, setting up the website, doing all the traffic, that sort of thing. If someone's never done a summit before, would you recommend they do the whole thing from scratch themselves, or would you recommend they outsource some of those parts? And which parts would you recommend outsourcing?
I mean, that's a hard question to answer, because there's so many variables. One of my mentors, he said, there's 2 ways you pay. You pay in time, or you pay in money. So depending on what you have more of would be the thing that you actually do. When I was first learning, I had a lot of time, but I didn't have a lot of money. So I put all of my spare time into learning every single component of producing an online summit. Was that the right decision? Maybe. I mean, I sort of know every single part of producing a summit inside out, back to front. I could do it in my sleep these days, but it probably also prolonged the amount of time it took for me to actually start making some really serious money online. So yeah, there's pros and cons to each. It depends on, probably the audience that are here right now. I would say for the most part, probably have more time available than money available. You know, when I was producing summits for other people, we were charging anywhere between 15 to 20 grand just to produce a summit. Now, it was a really great way that we produced them, but not everybody has that sort of money lying around, especially when you want to be paying for advertising on top of that. So I guess if you are going to outsource parts of it, then probably the best ones, well, the best ones in my opinion are whatever you hate doing, just get rid of that straight away. Whatever you're not good at, and get rid of that straight away. And then the things that you do love, then feel free to continue doing that and learn it and become great at it. For me, I still to this day love building funnels. So even, you know, we're doing quite well with our summits now, but I am still building the landing pages and I'm still building the sales pages, writing the copy on those pages because that's what I love, you know, and I probably wouldn't change that. But for me, what I don't love is all of the content stuff, right? So the video editing, the taking the notes, there's a whole heap of other extra things that we do in our summits now as well, which takes up a lot of time, transcripts and all of that type of stuff. Like that thing, that not only does it take a lot of time to do those things, it's just not something that I'm interested in. So they're the things that I get rid of. And also, you know, some of the better jobs to outsource if you are early stage, you know, not a lot of money, are those simple ones as well, where you can hire some really great people from the Philippines for anywhere between sort of $7 to $12 an hour, which is amazing that our world is connected, that we can do that now. And arguably they do just as good a job as anybody else, if not better in some cases, because that's what they're hyper focused on, that demographic, that area, that country. That's what they're known for now, right? Is becoming, you know, a virtual assistant is what it's called. So, and $7 to $10 to $12 an hour for them is great money to be over there in their country. So, you know, outsourcing those cheaper, sort of more affordable positions first is also a good place to start.
Yeah, I literally love all of that. So what happens if someone's putting together this online event and they're loving it all, and then they realize that they've missed a bit or forgotten a bit? Is there always going to be the time to make that up, or not worry about it, or work on it on the next one? Like, should people be getting really caught up if they feel like they're not doing it right, I suppose?
I guess the best way to answer that is, as long as you're capturing leads and generating sales, then you're probably doing okay. So they're the first two things that you definitely don't want to be missing out on, is somehow to capture your leads and somehow to generate some sales, if that is your strategy. For everything else, you're probably not going to get right all the time. For us, even to this day, after 25, 30 plus summits, there's still things that we wish we were doing every single summit. It's like, oh, we forgot to do this bit. Oh, we forgot to do this. And over time, like, the summits that you create get better and better and better. And there's always going to be new things that you want to do and try. So yeah, I think the most important part is you don't have to be a perfectionist. Sometimes done is better than perfect. And also, like, getting it out there for feedback from the market, right? Rather than, you know, just making a bit of a guess yourself on if this is good enough or not is actually better. The market, ultimately the people who decide whether the quality and the content is good or not. And the sooner you can get that feedback, the better. The other thing with summits as well is, if you put out your first one, and, you know, my very first summit, I put in 200 and something hours of work and put it out there expecting everybody to come and view it. But I had sort of less than 700 or less than 500 people sign up, which I was pretty disappointed with. But that content then got repurposed for years to come. It was added as bonuses for other summits that we did. I think we actually put some of them on Udemy once upon a time, which is still generating a couple of dollars a month, maybe. So yeah, there's always going to be an extra opportunity to use that content. And honestly, if you put a summit out there and it reaches less than a few thousand people, you could relaunch that summit in a year's time when you've got more experience and more money to invest in advertising, and no one will know the difference, because there's billions of people on the planet, and just a couple of thousand people seeing it 12 months easier, no one's going to know the difference. So it can sit there and be used over and over again. So sometimes if you're, just getting it out there is better than, holding it back for too long.
Yeah. I literally love that. And I feel like it's also one thing that we could easily just go into in a small way is mindset. Because I have actually worked with you on a lot of your summits. And I remember us talking about things where if I had to make a decision, it might take me, 2 hours to make a decision. And I remember you saying, just give it a couple of minutes, make the decision and move on, and then you're good. And I've noticed with doing my own summit that where if I was doing this for you, I would make like the decisions a lot faster. Whereas because I'm doing it for myself and I'm like, it's my baby, everything's got to be perfect. Like I'm doing things that I would never have done, like, with you in terms of like spending time and fiddling with changing just this one little bit, or then this other little bit. Like, is there a way, I don't even know if I'm wording this right, but how can you get out of your own way sometimes to actually get things moving a little bit faster if you kind of are blocking yourself by being a perfectionist?
Yeah, I mean, mindset is the biggest component of success in business for sure. And I guess it probably comes back to something that we were talking about before we started, which is how much do you trust yourself? Generally, if you don't trust yourself, you tend to think a lot about the decisions that don't really matter and don't spend enough time on the decisions that do matter. So as business owners, especially as your business continues to grow, you've got dozens of decisions to make every single day, maybe more in some instances. And you only have a certain amount of bandwidth, right, as a human being. That's why you hear stories of, I think maybe Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs, where they wear the same pieces of clothing every single day because it takes away a decision that they need to make each day. So it frees them up to actually make more higher quality decisions where they have a bigger impact, right? So if it's a decision like what type of font I should use, or what color, or where should I put this on the website, or should I edit it here or here? Ultimately, is that really going to, in a year's time, are you going to look back and are you going to be disappointed if you make the wrong decision here? If the answer is no, then it's probably not worth thinking about more than 10 seconds. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, this summit is perfect, soul-led entrepreneurs. The people in this audience right now would, if I was to take a guess, and I'm pretty confident with this guess, are all very intuitive, right? So typically us as intuitive entrepreneurs, we know the right decision immediately. And if you can trust yourself to know to back that immediate thing that comes up, then that's probably going to be the right decision. And if it's not, then you learn from it. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say to that. And again, and the other thing it always comes back to is that perfectionism, which is actually never achievable, and it probably comes from a place of lack. So yeah, I guess just having that self-awareness to know, okay, is this a critical decision for my business? Like a massive change of direction. So if you're creating a summit, you're like 90% through it and you want to change direction, that's probably a big decision that you need to sit down and think about and maybe sleep on overnight. But if it's a small little technical decision or something like that, then there's nothing to worry about. No one's really going to know the difference except for you, and you learn from it anyway. So yeah, it's a good question, and it probably comes with experience. And the more that you fail, the more you're going to know. I've definitely had 1,002 failures every single month, it feels, over the last 10 years. So yeah, you'll soon figure it out. But yeah, just the ultimate thing is trusting yourself.
I literally love that. And yeah, the reason why I did want to bring that up is because even for me, who does have a bit of an idea about how summits work, I still found myself falling into these patterns, and just having that awareness within yourself that for you as someone else, I don't know who you are, viewer, but say, for example, you are going into doing an online summit. For you, the thing that you get stuck on could be you might spend 5 years editing a video, or you might spend 5 hours on a font, like Mitch says. So it is just kind of getting into that place of not worrying too much and just having that self-awareness and catching yourself and doing as Mitch said and going, is this decision going to affect me in a year? You know, am I going to be worried about this later on? So I really loved that we brought that up, because there's so many parts to a summit where you probably could lose yourself down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So I really, really, really love that we brought that up. What about marketing? How would you go about marketing your summit?
And that's a very broad question. So again, it comes down to a whole bunch of variables. But I guess to give a bit of a framework around it, so there's really two ways to market a thing, right? Or probably, really two ways. There's paid media and earned media. So earned media is your organic traffic that you have already. So maybe you have a blog or a YouTube channel or a Facebook group. These are the things that you own. You've already built up that community. And it takes a little bit longer to build that, but there's also a bit more trust there. So it's a really good place to market your event and advertise and promote it and get people into the summit. If you don't have that, then really the other way is paid media. And there actually is a third way, which I'll talk about in a second as well, which sort of fits into both, but sort of doesn't. So paid media is where you're buying eyeballs and traffic onto your website. So this could be the most obvious one that is probably still the best performing is Facebook ads. Then you've got YouTube ads, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest. You've got email drops. There's a bunch of different options out there. So the going for that option is it's faster, but it's also more difficult because you could very easily waste thousands of dollars on Facebook and see nothing in return for it. I've definitely done it. It depends on what sort of skills you have. Maybe you have one or the other. If you don't have either, then I would probably lean towards a little bit more towards Facebook ads because it is quite an easy platform to learn. Maybe do a course to get up to speed and just test the waters. But just be prepared that you may have to lose a little bit before you win. For me personally, I love paid media. I made it my mission 5 years ago to learn how to run ads on Facebook. I was fortunate that I had a lot of people around me who had spent millions of dollars on ads through affiliate marketing and stuff like that. So I knew it was possible. I just didn't know how to crack the code just yet. And here we are 5 years later, I spent probably a couple of $1 million on the Facebook platform. And for the most part, that's been profitable. So that's just for both my brands and other brands, not all for myself, unfortunately. But it is, learning that skill is highly beneficial. It's also a great skill to have. And it's also an important skill to actually even have a little bit of knowledge about if you're going to outsource it, because there's a lot of sharks out there in the agency world these days. So you want to have at least enough knowledge to be able to manage them to the right KPIs and all of that type of stuff. So, and for me as an entrepreneur, I'm also pretty impatient. So I've always wanted things yesterday, and putting time into that organic growth was always a bit of a frustration for me. However, in hindsight, as I age and become a bit of a matured in that matured entrepreneur stage, I see the value in sticking with one thing and just doing the same boring stuff, putting content out all day, every day. I see the value in that now, and I wish I did that from the very start. However, it doesn't take away what I love about paid media. You can literally test an offer within hours to see if it's going to be good or not. And that's something that a lot of people do. Like, let's say you've got 5 different summits that you want to run and you don't know which one. You could put up a landing page and an ad for all the 5 of those summits and just run some traffic there and see which one's going to perform best, and then turn the ads off once you get the winner. And then that's the summit you create. So you've immediately validated that people in the market want to actually view this stuff. And then you've got the topic and you know sort of what the ad costs are going to be. So then it just becomes a mathematical game and a bit of time creating the content, and you've got a summit there that you know you're pretty confident is going to work. So that's the power of ads, right? You get that feedback loop is super quick, but it's also dangerous because you can throw away a lot of money. So yeah, they're the two real big ways of earned media, paid media. But then the final way, when running a virtual summit especially, is through affiliates. So that sort of sits outside of those two boxes a little bit. You could probably fit it into one of them, but affiliate marketing is a great way to build your brand. So if you have a premium offer within your summit, you could give your affiliates a percentage of any sale that they make by sending people into the summit, and some of them will be happy to promote. So we're always really generous with what you give our affiliates, anywhere between 40 to 50 to 60% commission, which if it's a digital product, then that's plenty, you know, and some people out there will promote for you. So instead of you doing all of the hard work, then they're going to do it for you. A lot of people who sell programs and things like that will tell you that affiliate marketing is easy and everybody's going to want to promote your summit. But I'd like to be a bit more realistic. And if it's your first summit, probably 3 to 4 people will promote your summit. And as you grow and build your reputation, that's where more and more affiliates come in. And, you know, I hate to be a bit of a doomsday type prepper, but I think it's important for people out there to share what really happens, rather than just the gurus who are selling courses all the time, telling you how easy it is and that everyone's going to promote your thing if you buy their course, when in reality it doesn't happen, at least for 99% of us. So just be prepared. And it's not a bad thing that people are saying no. If you think about it, these people have been building their audiences for years, sometimes decades. So they don't owe you anything. They've already given you some of their time to create content for your event. So you should be thankful for that. But over time, as you build your reputation, that's going to change. The perfect example was in my first company. When we got started, like I said, we had 500 people in the first one. I think maybe 2 or 3 affiliates promoted that one. But by the time, probably 2.5 years later, 2 years later, we were doing summits that were bringing in 18,000 people, and half of those people were coming from affiliates. So like 9 or 10,000 people. Our affiliates were generating tens of thousands of dollars in commission for us, which means we were getting 50% of that as well. So we were getting tens of thousands of dollars for the work that they were doing for us. And it was simply because we weren't pushy. We didn't get upset if they didn't promote in the early days. And we built that relationship over time. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years, is that sometimes success is just time, right? You know, you could do all of the right things and do really high quality stuff in the beginning, but you just haven't built that reputation and those relationships just yet. And the only thing that you need is time, because there's a lot of pretenders out there, and a lot of people, a lot of fly by night types of people who just get started on one thing and it doesn't work the first time. So they move on to the next. Whoops. Sorry, 1 second. I just turned on my music for some reason. Yeah, and so it makes people cautious when they're promoting to their audience. So as long as you look after those relationships that you're building, over time, those affiliate relationships are going to grow. It's also going to present to you more opportunities. We've had a lot of great opportunities with affiliates that we've built relationships with over time. We almost even had one of them become an investor in our previous business. But we just had some circumstances change. So yeah, it's amazing what can happen as you nurture those relationships.
In the case of nurturing those relationships, then, should someone consider online summits as a regular part of their business strategy and start doing them, say, once a year? Or is a summit just a standalone thing that they can use to get themselves out there?
Well, I mean, again, it's very dependent upon the person and their goals. For me, I've worked with a number of clients who do the same summit every single year, but they just update the content. So they're on, like World Language Teaching Summit 2.0 or 3.0 or 4.0. some of the biggest summits in the online health space have been going for 10 years plus. I think it's the tapping solution. They were one of the very first, like probably back in 2012 or 2011, to do a tele summit, and they're still going to this day, as far as I know. So and by doing it every single year, that's where you do build those really great relationships. And you might get to like your third year, and all of a sudden you've got a big fleet of affiliates who are bringing in thousands and thousands of subscribers for you. So yeah, if you enjoy doing interviews and things like that, then absolutely. The other way to do it is you could create these marketing assets where it's the one summit, but you just relaunch it every 12 months. Because going back to what I was saying earlier in this interview is there's always new people looking for this type of content, right? It's very rare to have somebody who will stick around with you for years if it's like an educational product, because people evolve. And if you're not putting out more and more products to help that step along with their evolution, they're going to learn what they can from you, and then they're going to go on to the next person, which isn't a bad thing. But there's going to be, another, for that person that's leaving, there's going to be maybe two people that are looking for the solution that you have. So yeah, it really depends on the strategy, and what your business model is. Like the business model that we're running with now, we actually put out a brand new summit every single month, and we're not sure if we're going to do them again or if we're going to repurpose them and do them as an evergreen thing. So that's sort of going to be figured out over the next 12 months. So yeah, it's very, very dependent. I would say don't use the summit as a one-off thing. That's what most people do. There's a lot of great content. You can repurpose it in many ways.
Love that. And I'd also love to even ask, when it comes to the length of the summit and the amount of speakers, does that make a difference? Can you have a successful 2-day summit with 10 speakers? Because I know that with your summits, they're generally 4, 5, 6 days with over 20 speakers. What do you recommend in that way for someone's summits?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've always done those, 15 to 20, sometimes more. And we find that is the perfect amount of speakers to create enough attention when you're advertising for people to actually want to take action and sign up and then buy. If it's less than that, it's really hard to justify a price for the premium pass, at least in my experience. If you have 6 of the best speakers in the world, very well-known ones, then you could probably get away with it as a small summit, and it would work fine. However, for the most part, for most of us here, we're probably still in the early stage. I almost think about a summit as like an online course, right? So what are the steps that people need in order to achieve a certain outcome? And then list out all of the topics that we need for that and get all of those topics filled out. So generally an online course, you're probably going to need like 20 or so modules to actually achieve the result that you're after. So that's what we try and fill out with 20 or so speakers. If you're using a summit just for lead generation purposes, then you could probably get away with doing a 1 or 2 day summit with 6 to 10 people, and it would work fine. You just realize that instead of generating 10,000 people who sign up, you might get 2,000 people, but it's also less work and less customer support and less time and all of that type of stuff, and you can focus on the other parts of your business. So yeah, it's I guess to summarize that a little bit more as well, is for us, we treat our online summits as quite a big event, and as quite a valuable give to our audience. So and a big philosophy that I've always had is anything that I do, I want to do world class. A lot of the smaller summits are sort of thrown together quickly, and you can tell when you sign up. It doesn't take away from the quality of the content, but it does take away from probably the quality of the entire event, which makes it a little bit harder to make a buying decision. So again, like if I'm being real, and it's probably an annoying answer for a lot of people out there that just want to know how to do something, but it really comes down to your strategy and what you want to achieve.
No, I literally love that. And you also mentioned about the premium and upselling people to the premium. What is that? Just if people haven't done an online event before, they know that it's free for 6 days or 5 days. What's this upscale?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great question, and something that a lot of people don't put in a lot of thought to. Um, but my philosophy is, if you're going to be interviewing all of these people and creating all of this amazing content, then why not sell it as well? And you can sell it for for a multitude of reasons. But two of the main reasons that we create a product and sell it for is, one, that we can drive traffic and hopefully make the same amount of money back for the amount of money that we're spending on ads. So if we spend $30,000 on ads, we ideally want to make that back in premium pass sales from those ads alone. So that's one way. And then the other way is then coming back to the affiliates, giving your affiliates a reason to want to promote. There's very few affiliates in the world who are just, generous of their audience and just send you leads for free if there's no reason to. So having an opportunity for them to generate some money, that's what we're in business for, right? Is to make money. So yeah, they're two of the really big reasons that we create a premium pass. But also, people want to buy stuff. Like when they see value in it, they actually want to purchase, and it's actually a disservice to not allow them to purchase this stuff and have it in their arsenal for when they need to come back to it later. And maybe you want to give them a whole bunch of bonuses that wouldn't be totally suitable to everybody. And you can create a better user experience by having that premium pass. Like for us right now in our company, in the premium pass, we give them, we tried to do deals with our sponsors and speakers to give them discounts on certain products that they can't get anywhere else. Like if we didn't have the buying power to actually do that by telling them these are going to be our hottest leads, do you want access to our hottest leads? If you do, then give us a really great discount, and it's going to be great for them. It's also going to be great for you, and it helps our package become more valuable as well. So we provide them with a ton of value. It then affords us to create transcripts. While transcripts are much cheaper than they were 3 years ago, it still costs money to get that done for the most part. It allows us to create all sorts of stuff. We're also now doing like USBs and printed books and things like that. And you can't give those away for free, but people love that type of stuff, right? That holding that stuff tangibly in their hands is, for some markets, a really big thing. Or like putting a book on their coffee table so they can share it with their friends when they come around. So all of those things cost money to create. And unless you've backed by a ton of funding for a purchase that they're going to make further down the track, then creating that premium pass is a great way to be able to alleviate all of those costs and hopefully generate a bit of profit as well. So it also then allows the promotion of the summit to become a mathematical game, because that's all business really is at the end of the day. If you know your numbers, then each launch that you do, each product that you put out there, your goals and targets for the month is just maths. So we know that if it takes us, if for us it takes $3 or $4 to generate a lead, and then that lead from the summit then converts at 5%, then we just do some magical mathematics, and it tells us how much money we can spend to acquire that lead on Facebook. And any ad campaign that is, or any ad set that is then generating leads for that amount or less, we scale up and we keep scaling until that doesn't happen anymore. And then we launch more ads, and it's just rinse and repeat, right? And it's a very safe way then to grow your business. It's very predictable, rather than sort of, putting something out there, hoping something's going to happen. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You're sort of struggling this month and struggling the next month, but then you have a good month, and then that allows you to pay for some bills that you haven't paid for before. So yeah, it gives you a lot more options and a lot more predictability, and provides a lot more value as well.
I literally love that answer. Thank you so much. You've really given everyone Yeah, quite the overview there. So I literally love that. I hope everyone's getting so much value out of this and writing a lot of notes. What would be the difference in what the consumer gets between a free summit and then the premium?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's a few different things. So for the free one, everyone gets to watch all of the interviews via video, and that's generally for 24 to 48 hours across a 4 to 5 day period. If they miss anything, then too bad, so sad. They've missed out. The premium pass, though, we give them instant access into a members area. In that members area, they then have all of the recordings in there indefinitely, which they can log in there and watch. We also give them MP3 audio files of each of the interviews as well, so they can download them, put them on their iPod or iPhone. No one has an iPod anymore. iTunes, I meant to say. And then put it on their phone, and then they can, listen to that in the car, in the gym, while they're commuting to and from work. So it just gives them that better flexibility of where they can listen and learn this content. We also give them Cliff Notes. So this is like a recap of the best points of each speaker. So we literally sit down and we write out, like we go through each interview individually after it's done, and write out a book, and all of the recaps and the best things that came up during that talk. We're also doing transcripts. So if they want to read word for word, they can read word for word as well. Like I said before, we're doing discounts and deals from our sponsors. Because we do so many summits, we're actually giving each pass holder a $10 discount on any future passes that they purchase from us as well. So it keeps that, that buyer, that builds up that lifetime value of the customer and keeps that buyer retention happening. And if you bring in on sponsors as well, then you could have deals from your sponsors. We also put in their videos from our sponsors. So it might be like demonstration videos, that type of thing, an extra Q&A with whoever the host is. So you could do a members only Q&A. Get creative and think about all the things that they need. I've also, in the past, I've also put together ebooks. So things that complement your summit. If you sit down and really think about how to create an offer, then what are all the things that they need in order to justify their purchase, right? So if you can help people get a result faster, give them shortcuts like templates and recipes and all that type of stuff, they're the tangible things that people want. So yeah, just sit down and think about what your audience really want, and how can you create a really compelling offer that they're willing to get their wallets out for.
Yeah, literally love all of that. Love it. Because it is just about opening up your creativity and thinking about, in the planning stages, what your offer could actually be for the value that your customers and consumers will get benefit from. So I really, really love all of that.
Absolutely. The offer is the first place I start in every single campaign. Like, what is the thing that we're going to sell? And then how is the best way to sell that? And work backwards from there. Whereas in the beginning, I used to think of it this way. It was like, what's a summit that I really love to do? And then how can I create an offer to match that? And oftentimes, that's not the right way to go about it. And it becomes a really big challenge to then create the offer to make it fit in with what the topics and stuff that you have. But if you start from the back first and work from the back to the front, then it's just such an easier way to maximize the opportunity for success. And because after you've done a couple of failed summits like I did in the beginning, you realize that's not a lot of fun. There's a lot of work for not much reward. So it's always best to work a little bit smarter in the end.
Literally love that. Now, what I'd also be able to ask, what would your top 3 tips be for someone who, if they did listen to this interview and wanted to start a summit in the next few months, what would your top 3 tips be to get them started?
Yeah, I guess step number 1 or tip number 1 is plan really well. Really think about what you want to achieve, focusing on your offer first. Number 2 is get it underway immediately. Like, start reaching out to people that you know and getting them locked in. And the reason for that is if you don't, you're going to keep pushing it back further and further, and then it'll never get done. And then number 3 is have fun with it. The summits are a great way to connect with other people in the industry, to build those relationships, and to hone in on your skills as well, right? Building a business is probably the best personal development course you'll ever take, and we're forever growing and becoming better. And producing a summit is exactly the same thing. So yeah, stick with it. And just to add a bonus tip, can I give a bonus tip?
Yeah.
If your first one fails, don't stop there. mine was a massive failure, and I could have walked away at that moment, but there was something about it that kept me around. And if it wasn't for sticking around and continuing to do more, then I probably still would have been struggling as a personal trainer or some other job right now, rather than generating millions of dollars over the years from summits. So just stick with it and keep doing it, and eventually it'll work.
Yeah, I literally love all of those tips. Thank you so, so much. Now, what are you up to? Because you're doing pet summits. I know that normally I would say to people, where can they find you and all of that sort of thing, but you're quite targeted in what you're doing now. So are you able to share with the audience what you're up to and where you're at?
Yeah, so we produce online summits in the pet space. We connect. So I don't sit in front and do interviews and stuff anymore. I prefer being behind the scenes, building the business and strategizing and things like that. So we create online pet summits for anything from dog training to dog gut health, allergies, nutrition, anything for pets. Our entire focus of 2022 is dogs. So if you have a dog, then definitely sign up and just see what our summits are about. You'll guaranteed to learn some epic information, but you also see how we do it really well these days. So yeah, you can follow along if you like. But if you have any questions, just shoot me a message, probably on Facebook or by email, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Eventually I'll get to you. Maybe it won't be straight away because there's a lot going on, but I'll eventually reply to everybody, and more than happy to help where I can.
Yeah, literally love that. Thank you. And I will share your links in the show notes that are going to be with this interview. So I will share all of that for everybody so that they can easily find you. So thank you so much for letting me interview you. You're totally the person to talk to about online summits. So I literally have appreciated this so very much. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure. It was fun. Thanks for having me.